Welcome back to the Right Take Report. Today we're seeing how the left is getting desperate, and it's showing. From flipping on their own polls in terms of less than 5 or a little bit over 5 years ago, to blocking common sense immigration policies, they're playing politics instead of solving real problems. Today we're going to break down all of that and how personal bias and double standards are driving hypocrisy by the left. Let's get right into it.
I thought this polling was interesting. This is whether Democrats should work with the GOP or stop the Republican agenda. But what I want you to look at here is how this has changed. And back in 2017, 74% of Democrats said they should work with the GOP. Now, 57% say they should stop the Republican agenda. There has been a complete shift in the mindset of the Democratic Party. They want resistance. They want a Tea Party.
100%. And what you just said, we should listen to the people. You said, as a congressman, am I correct in saying that? You just said we should listen to the people. Why aren't they listening to the people? There's no leadership. There's nobody doing anything. And what we saw, honestly, was a cave. Yet again, another example with Schumer saying, I don't want the smoke. And we're asking, I mean, they are begging. She just showed the dramatic shift. I don't understand what the problem is. Why is there nobody, for lack of a better word, with some cojones to stand up and say, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Well,
if
look,
you know we need it, and I'm not trying to give you the smoke, but if you know we need it, why is it not happening?
Look, we need to throw a punch. That's correct. And the American people want us to throw a punch.
By the way,
And we need to-
political punch, not literal
yes.
punch, because then they're going to say stuff.
Now, of course, you know, the proposals that they're bringing are horrendous enough for us to do that, and we should do that.
What's
Yes.
horrendous about the CR? It continues funding the government at
Horrendous
budget
about
level.
the CR is that it is a cut.
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
If you do not consider the cost of doing business, if you do not consider that the cost of living, for example, has gone up, that everything has gone up.
Now you're changing. It's not a cut. You're being
It's a
dishonest.
cut.
It's not a cut.
It's a cut.
It's continuing
A cut is a
funding the
cut is a
government at the
cut.
same levels. It's not a cut. You voted to shut down the government. You voted to lay off every veteran in the federal government. You're making a passionate plea for why Democrats didn't shut down the government. And now Chuck Schumer can't even have a book tour because Democrats are so enraged that the government was shut. And I'm just confused because last week I was told that people going and expressing their First Amendment rights was part of their democratic and civic duty. And now Chuck Schumer can't even have a book party with Democrats over it.
All right, before they get into more conversation, let's think about those polling numbers and why they flipped to stopping the GOP versus working with the GOP. This is because the Democratic Party has become bitter and super reactionary, that they'll do anything to oppose Trump, even at the expense of their own progress and the United States' progress. Personal bias is getting in the way of advancing our country. Of course, the CNN contributor plays along, saying, let's listen to the people, a typical partisan talking point. And yes, we should listen to the people, but you want to be sound in your arguments. Let's be real. These commentators aren't actually interested in what the people want. They're just looking for an excuse to bash Trump and block anything the GOP pushes forward. Jennings makes a solid point. Commentators are more focused on throwing political punches, yes, not physical punches, Anna, thank you, than working towards real results. It's all about scoring political points rather than making the country better. This whole situation highlights how the left weaponizes outrage instead of pursuing effective solutions. Now let's talk about Schumer. Jennings, again, is spot on. Schumer votes with the Republicans to prevent a government shutdown, which, by the way, isn't such a terrible thing, and suddenly there's a lot of backlash. Why? Because he dared to prioritize stability over partisanship? The left's reaction is telling. Schumer can't even go on a simple book tour without facing security concerns. This is the reality of when you live in the left's hive mind. You become, or when you don't live in the left's hive mind, you become a target.
Trying to decide.
I mean, Scott, I actually think that Democrats are in agreement with you in the sense that they probably think Chuck Schumer should,
Yes,
to
exactly.
Gary's point, take the smoke.
2 weeks ago, he was attacking
Show up and take the
it.
he should show up and take the L is what I'm
Tomorrow-
saying. No one's saying he can't have it, Scott. He can do whatever he chose to, but once again, another example of him deciding to hide. I would love for him to go on the book tour so that he can answer the questions of the American people. Security risk perhaps may be true, according to what Abby has said and what his office is saying.
Who would be the security risk, though?
I don't know.
Who
All
would
I'm
be the
saying-
security
Wait a
risk?
minute. The book is about.
Who is the risk?
Scott,
Can we just admit who the risk is?
The book
left,
is about
right?
anti-Semitism, right? So I guess somebody that might be anti-Semitic might target
So, the left.
Chuck Schumer. Tomorrow,
Yes.
he's supposed to be on The View. I think that hasn't changed. He'll be on the hot seat there. I also think he should go on this book tour, because if we are talking about Republicans who don't have the cojones, to quote you, to show up to actually even do town halls, even though there were town halls of constituents all over the country this weekend begging the Republicans to show up and answer questions. They refused to do so. But so I think Chuck Schumer should face the music, should, as harsh as it may be, should answer people and should portray some leadership and confidence, which he has done in the past.
Okay, I think Chuck Schumer was the adult in the room. He did what the American people want. The American people want government. They want people to get deals done. And the fact of the matter is, people don't want to punch. The fact of the matter is, people are actually excited. NBC News on Meet the Press, they reported their polling found the highest level of enthusiasm and the country going in the right direction since 2004. 20 years. So President Trump is doing exactly what he campaigned on. That's why 76% of people said, according to CBS polling, agreed with his State of the Union speech, which included a lot of independents and a lot of Democrats who were watching that speech.
Carrie.
That is why...
Carrie, my namesake, Carrie.
Yes, my fellow Carrie.
You do know what you're saying is incorrect. I don't care about the polling.
Talk to
The
NBC.
American, I don't care what NBC is saying. I can talk to the people on the streets. Are you on the streets? Are you talking
Absolutely,
to
I
people
am.
in real life situations who have everyday jobs who are saying they're unhappy? You know very well.
Are you saying
that
CNN
wait,
polling is
they're
wrong?
saying-
No, what
that-
I'm saying is,
that Joe
don't do
Biden
me.
under-
Don't try me today, Scotty.
We
what
put
I'm
out a-
saying
we
to
put
you
out a
is that
CNN
you
poll.
know,
Are you saying
by
our
and
polling
large,
is wrong?
no, what I'm saying to you is that you know, by and large, people are not happy. This
No,
is
they're
not,
very happy. They're unhappy with Democrats.
You're happy.
They're happy with Trump.
You're happy. Democrats aren't happy. We're not happy with Democrats and the way they're
Let me try to
handling
sort
the
this out
situation.
real quick before we have to go to break. The American people are not very happy with the direction of the economy. They are not very happy with Democrats. There's a lot of unhappiness to go around.
Correct.
For the time being, Donald Trump's approval rating continues to go in the wrong direction.
Here's a quick final comments. The left is clearly just looking for arguments at this point. It's really getting to be a lot. Let's be honest, Biden has given about maybe 3 speeches during his entire presidency, yet somehow they're mad that Schumer didn't show up to one town hall meeting. Give me a break. And here's the kicker. Carrie suddenly doesn't care about polling when it doesn't suit her narrative. And I may have the wrong person there. Or actually, they're both named Carrie. Their hypocrisy is glaring. The same commentators who celebrated polls showing Clinton beating Trump in 2016 are now dismissive of polls that support the Republican agenda. It's cherry-picking at its finest. When the polls support them, they're the voice of the people. When they don't, polls don't matter anyway. We got to speak to everyone in the streets. It's a peak leftist double standard nonsense.
And I just want to read to you from a document that I'm fond of, the Constitution of the United States. Article 3, Section 1, the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress from may time to time ordain and establish. One of those inferior courts happens to be the entire district court apparatus. Okay.
I mean, so politically, let us not pretend that Democrats have not in the past stated that a president of their party should not ignore judges. I remember AOC just a year or two ago talking about President Biden should ignore the ruling for judges as it pertains to forgiving student debt. There were a lot of Democrats who made that argument at the time. I disagreed. With that said, earlier today, we had Roberto Gonzalez on, former AG under George W. Bush, who was pretty clear. He didn't necessarily agree with the post from the president, but he said from his opinion as an attorney, he's almost certain that the Supreme Court would agree that the president has the authority to absolutely ship these criminals out of our country. And the fact that Democrats want to die on this issue, more power to them. More power to them. This is not a winning issue for Democrats.
It's not the issue. It's the process that we have in our country that is democracy. It's easy to make this case be the test case because it is, as Scott likes to say, an 80-20 issue, right? And we're not dying on the Hill. We're trying to protect our Constitution. So the judge makes a ruling. It could go to the appellate. It could go to the Supreme Court. And when that ruling comes down, people should follow the law. Former presidents and current presidents. But it doesn't mean that the president gets to have an order by decree just because he was elected by a majority of Americans. He can govern,
Well, he
but
has
we have 3 branches of government for a reason.
He has an argument to make, though, which is that these people are effectively transnational terrorists, and if they were Hamas or ISIS or anyone else,
And
we'd be
it's going
clamoring
through
against
the
it.
court.
We wouldn't wait around 4 years for 100
Quickly to make some comments. Jennings is 100% correct here. If this was any other type of terrorist group, we would have had them out of the country, eradicated a long time ago. But, referring to the last video, if Democrats were truly for the people and making decisions based on public opinion, they should be furious at the judge who is denying Trump's deportation plans. After all, Trump's immigration policies were a major reason why he was even elected in the first place. The majority of Americans support stronger immigration enforcement, but the left is completely ignoring the will of the people this time. Instead, they're clutching at straws and dying on the wrong hill, using the Constitution as a political prop rather than actually defending it. Singleton also nails it. Trump has every right to do what's necessary to protect the country by deporting illegal criminal immigrants. And let's be real, many of these people pose a legitimate threat to American people. We're not just talking about people who are overstaying their visas, we're talking about human traffickers and, yes, even terrorists and murderers. Jennings continues to say that the idea of waiting around for years shouldn't be what's happening, and I have to agree. The longer they stay, the more danger they pose to American people.
I think the question is, where is the right place to make that argument? And of course, Donald Trump would prefer to make that argument on Fox News and in the political arena and on X, where he has the advantage. And I think what John Roberts is saying is, no, that will actually be decided in the legal process because that's the way our government is set up. Now, is that going to be the way that it's ultimately decided? We don't know. That's the battle that's going on because we're in an unprecedented situation where the President of the United States is at least threatening, if not outright, defying court orders.
He said the opposite on Fox tonight. He said he would not defy court orders.
Yeah, he says a lot of things.
And he said he never would.
Yeah, but the facts of whether or not he actually defied that court order are still being investigated, and we just don't know yet.
Yeah, but the plane was already in the air. Were they supposed to magically just turn around and bring these people back?
Maybe.
And I have a very serious question here.
Yeah.
Does the president not have any authority to protect American citizens?
Of course he does.
That's a straw man argument.
Hold on.
Let me put it the timeline for 1 second here, just so we can establish this. Look, it's a little bit unclear, as Josh was saying, what exactly happened here. The judge did sign an order here before the hearing even began, and then he issued the oral order. And then there was the written order, and then the final flight departed there. So there was a flight that departed after, which now the Trump administration is saying did not have anyone on it that was on it solely because of the Alien Enemies Act. But
we need to find out what the ground truth is. But on a broader scale, the president would love to bully everybody into doing what he wants. He can bully Congress pretty easily. He can bully business leaders. But there are two things he can't bully. He can't bully the markets. Markets are going to do what the market's going to do. It's like shouting at the rain to stop. And he can't bully the judges, or at least we don't know if he can. Well, and those are the two things where actually we might have institutions that are going to say, wait a second, it doesn't matter what Donald Trump says on TV or on X or on Fox News. There's a ground truth here. It'll be litigated. And no amount of scare tactics and pressure tactics is going to change that. That's the line in the sand John Roberts drawn. It's a good line to draw.
First of all, it's an extraordinary thing. It is an extraordinary thing that Chief Justice Roberts spoke out against Donald Trump. I've never in my lifetime seen a Chief Justice issue a statement in response to a president. In this situation, he was calling for the president is calling to impeach a judge just because he disagreed with the ruling. And I think we should recognize that is unprecedented. And I hope the court...
Who appointed John Roberts?
John Roberts, this is not the first time that John Roberts has issued a statement about President Trump. And how many times have we had Democrats issue statement after statement when the Supreme Court rules in a way that they don't like?
This is
We're not talking
ridiculous.
about Democrats. We're talking about...
No.
There's a difference.
There's a difference, actually. I think it's a bit hypocritical.
It's not at all.
There is one Chief Justice. And that is the one who spoke. Not a Democrat, not a talking head. The Chief Justice spoke and said, we have a process. Now, let's just be honest with the American people right now, and that Donald Trump is using these cases to invoke his base. They aren't stupid. They're selecting certain cases that have a political lens to it, and they're testing the bounds.
All right, here are my final thoughts and the outro. I've never heard of anyone saying it's not okay to express your opinion on X, formerly Twitter, except for when it's Trump or his supporters trying to rally effort to do the right things for the country. That's where he gains a lot of his backing, if they don't know these CNN commentators. It's maybe unfiltered, and it's direct communication with the people, which is what he was elected to do. Rogan seems uncomfortable with that because it's bypassing his media filter. And regarding the timeline of the judge's ruling on the flights, it's a classic case of government inefficiency. The timeline is unclear, but it's all happening within a 2 to 4 hour window, and anyone who knows how the government operates understands that communication is painfully slow. The lack of coordination is just another example of bureaucratic incompetence. Singleton is right once again. The Democrats are fighting tooth and nail to block Trump's immigration policies, but when things don't go their way, they run straight to the courts using underhanded legal tactics and activist judges to their advantage. It's not about fairness, it's about power and politics. The left will do anything, even undermine the legal system, to protect their own narrative. That's the real game being played here. Thank you for watching. Please provide some constructive feedback in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.